to Super Talk Show. It's so nice to have you with us, joining us from Canada.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It's a great honor.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us. Right now, I think we have about a 6-hour difference in time zone. And to start the interview off, do you want to give a short introduction about yourself and maybe your startup?
Yep, so hi everyone. As I said before, my name is Taha. I'm currently a rising sophomore in Canada. Just a little bit about myself. I really enjoy front-end coding. So I do a lot of HTML and CSS. So yeah, that's a lot of like some of the coding I do. Regarding the business, so in LaunchX, our startup is currently called SOIS, so the Society of International Scholars. And our service basically is a connection between international high school students interested in studying the US with former international students from the same country who are currently studying in the US. So this was kind of like the problem that we wanted to solve because a lot of students don't have that connection to go into the US. So that's what our team decided to start off at LaunchX is to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really awesome. And I did not know you were a coder before. So you came to LaunchX or you applied as probably a builder or?
Yeah, as a builder.
Mm-hmm. I applied. I was choosing between a brander and a business developer, and I just applied as a business developer. So that's cool. How's the dynamic in your team? Are everyone all builders, or there's a great dynamic going on?
I think so. I think two of us are builders. So me and my fellow teammate, we usually work on like the website part of our platform, and then we do have two business developers. So yeah, well, actually three business developers because we have a team of five, and I think it actually helps a lot because we usually kind of like. I guess when you're kind of coding, you kind of don't realize the other aspects. You're more just looking at like the visuals. And sometimes when we have like the business developer, we those type of people, they kind of like bring traffic to our website. So we found that that's really helpful. So yeah, it's really a good combination. And I think like our team's really efficient with using that. I think like if it was only builders, it might have been like one perspective, but I kind of liked how we have like some business developers because it just kind of adds a little bit more like diversity in our like skill sets in our business.
Yeah, for sure. We actually have a brander on our team too. So there's a dynamic going on in our team, but we do have 3 builders, which is like a heavy lifting in one side. And speaking of Society of International Scholars, SOIS. Why do you think your team is uniquely qualified to solve the problem that you guys are solving?
So kind of like the thing that we think of like how we're qualified is that if someone gave this business to us, we would be the target customer because we are international students who are interested in studying the US. So the reason we found that we are qualified or why we think we could have an understanding of this business is because we all want to go into the US and we're all outside of the US. And we're also high school students. So we understand that like all the struggles that go into it and all these like processes. And personally for us, we just like did mentors with our personal connections, which did help. But we were like, that's kind of how we sparked our idea because when we were doing interviews, we thought that, some people who are international students have those connections, but in reality, a lot of them don't. And so that's why we kind of figured out is that we're qualified or why we thought we should start the business is because we found that we can really relate with the customers. And that's kind of like one of our business mottos is that we want like the customers to feel belonged in our community. And we found that if we're kind of like the target customers ourselves, I think we could definitely relate and also add a more like different perspective to our business because we can both look at it as like a customer and also look at it as from like the business perspective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask because you did mention that your service one aspect of your service is connecting students who want to go into the US and students who are already in the US. So how did you navigate and search for all the mentors who are in the US that can mentor for those outside of the US? It's kind of confusing to say it.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's also kind of a confusing process on how we got this. So one, we did a lot of personal connections. So one of our fellow team members, Bruce, he's in China, so he has some connections over there. So we found some mentors over there. We also use Instagram, and we direct messaged a lot of these students who said that they were in certain universities that were in the US. We direct messaged them. We also went through platforms such as Discord. And then also one way we're thinking of doing in the future is by contacting universities such as like Ivy League schools. And then they usually have like Facebook groups for these international students who are, I guess, college students. And because they have like all these international clubs, we're thinking that we might just like contact there because they were students who kind of were in the steps of like our target customers. So that's why we're thinking that that's going to be kind of like a future method to get a little bit more like mentors.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touch on something I really want to ask. And I mean, you guys, of course, mentioned future. That's really cool. So are you guys planning, is your whole team planning on doing it in the future? Like continuing SOIS?
Yeah, we're definitely thinking of continuing SOIS just because with all the feedback we got from both our instructors, and then also some feedback we got from the customers, we found that a lot of them are like, yes, we want this service. And the funny thing is that a lot of them are even paying more than what we expected. So we found that this service is actually really beneficial for all of us. So yeah, we definitely found that this is a service that we're going to continue to move on with.
Hmm. Yeah. And let me go back to answer you gave. So you mentioned Bruce. I definitely saw you guys' pitch video this week, early on this week, and he started off saying he wanted to get into Harvard. And I've been following you guys' Instagram for quite a long time, and there's a lot of information. Did you like information about getting into Ivy League schools, all of that? Did you guys do the research yourself, or how did you navigate that process?
So yeah, we did start initially with our research ourselves, but we actually got help from our mentors just because they're a little bit more experienced on this topic. So one of our other team members, Aisa, she's one of like the main social media managers of our company. And she basically kind of reached out to these mentors and they gave feedback on our post and they kind of tweaked and corrected some information. We also got some mentors who were willing to be even on our Instagram page. You might see them on our Instagram page, and we found that like all these resources were really beneficial. Yeah, so we definitely found that we used a lot of, we did initially start with our own research, but then we kind of later on contacted mentors and they kind of tweaked up our information and stuff and made it more accurate.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm just curious, what was like, at what point did you guys find this idea? Because I know for my team, we've struggled. We spend like hours on end searching for that perfect idea that we're going to use throughout LaunchX. We've spent hours on Zoom, chatting through WhatsApp. And how was that process for you guys?
So I think for a lot of startups, we can all relate that we like there were stages where I think we were doing like little debates between our team, like, no, we shouldn't do this idea, or like this one's kind of good. And I think for us, it was honestly kind of like we almost went to a dead end for this business idea because this was like the idea that we originally had, and that's kind of we pursued. But in the middle, I guess in the beginning of like the LaunchX course, they were showing this like graph that shows your happiness throughout like LaunchX, and you like I thought we definitely felt like we were in like the through a sorrow and that moment. So but like the way we originally decided to continue with this idea is that one student, again, Bruce, was talking about how he was an international student and how he was interested in studying in the US. And we found that he said how like other students around him didn't have those resources. And when he was talking, this was a general conversation, we weren't really like we kind of thought that this wasn't an idea we're doing anymore, but we just like kind of talked about what if this idea was actually one of we're going to pursue. But when he said that no, it kind of sparked an idea like, oh wait, people actually don't have that resource. And then we're like, okay, let's do some interviews a little bit. Let's maybe like refine our ideas. And then we got really good feedback. Like, and a lot of students were like, yes, pursue this with this idea because we don't have those resources. And so then after that moment, we're like, yeah, let's start SOIS because people don't have those resources.
Hmm. Yeah. And now, as you were mentioning about like Bruce's experience, like pitching this idea sort of to you guys, I guess not pitching, but like conversation. And that's not even a word, talking about this idea. Let's just put it at that. Um, I do think it might be a little bit similar to like college consulting services. And how do you guys differentiate? Because that's a question that our startup has been asked a lot from like our mentors, Pedro, or other, leaders, instructors.
Yeah. Also, Pedro kind of said a similar question to us, but the way we are different is that so a lot of these college consulting services, I like a lot of them, they just have like they give authentic resources and they'll kind of guide you through. Only thing is that they're not really relatable and they're not really from the same country. So what one thing that we're kind of different is that if you're gonna get mentored by a university student, that university student is from your country. So for example, if I was a Turkish student who's interested in studying the US, the person who's going to be mentoring me is also from Turkey. So that I have that relatability. And I also kind of feel like all these students are kind of like they have like that resource. And we found that some other resources, they don't really have that. They do have sometimes, yes, there's college students, but they're not from the same country. So one thing we wanted to do is that like who knows the country best than like when you come from there, like you know exact process, you can basically guide you can guide that other person because you've been through that exact or very similar situation. So there's one student from Turkey who's interested in Harvard, they would be contacted with like a mentor from Harvard who's from Turkey, and like it works out really well because they know the resources, they know the application process, they know specifically what's in Turkey. And we found that doing that, a lot of services don't have that. And we found that's kind of like our unique edge because we found that students, again, with the lack of resources that they have, but this time they have a resource that's really relatable, but also very reliable because sometimes, you might have a friend in Turkey who's doing the same thing, but you don't really have that authenticity. But when you have a mentor who's already been to your like I guess desired school, you kind of have that like idea, and it's also from the same country. So I think that's like or a unique thing that's a part of our business.
Hmm. Wow, I think you guys do have like a great idea. I just do mind giving like a 1 minute short pitch to the super audience about why they should purchase or engage with your service. I interviewed also startups like Choosing to Fight, a cancer kind of startup from LaunchX that aims to raise awareness and tackle mental health issues just a few days ago. And they were like pitching about their idea, telling why super audience should also support it. And yeah, can we hear one from you?
Yep. So one of the things that I think a lot of students that I guess are listening to this audience is a lot of us are high school students, and a lot of us want to go into the US, but we don't have those resources. And a lot of like I guess LaunchX students, because we're all international. One thing I found is that SOIS, we kind of want that process to be like very connected. And so one thing is that like I guess like if you guys want like a college consulting service, but something that's not I guess, overly expensive, but also a service that's also very reliable. I would definitely say that SOIS kind of fulfills that need because one thing is that like college consulting services, again, you don't like you're kind of talking to a professional mentor, maybe not like a university student. And for some that may work, but for some people, like they want to really truly ask questions. And sometimes when there's like a really big age gap, there's kind of like that barrier. And we found that we kind of want to reduce that barrier and we want like our students or customers to just be free when they're asking questions, and we want to keep it very inclusive. And like a lot of we won't because like a lot of when you're doing college consulting services, you're kind of writing down questions trying to make the most of your time, but we don't really want that to be the case with our service. We want it to be way more like a relaxed conversation. Maybe they even do when we're planning on even doing fun events, so we just want to make the service really like enjoyable. That's kind of like one of our main goals. So I guess if students want to have that authenticity, but also have like a very fun and enjoyable service, then yeah, I think SOIS kind of like fulfills those needs. And in the future, what we're thinking is that we're going to actually do forums. So if students, for example, if they can't work out like a meeting time or they're like really busy this week, well, then they can also just simply ask a question to their mentor or even just like the community in general, so they can even like get other perspectives from mentors, or if they have like a country or if they want to do a mentor from a different country, the forum's a great way. And they can also maybe, do a meeting with them if they want. But originally we'd think that, you want it from the same country. But yes, we do have forums, and that's kind of like, again, we want it to the forum to be very like inclusive, kind of like environment. And yeah, so that's kind of like our goal with SOIS, is that we just want it to be a very smooth and like enjoyable process when you're kind of like moving into the US.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer to the question. And thinking about your team, I do know a few of your members. You guys really do have the great dynamic and the diversity, as you mentioned, to do this because, Bruce, he's based in China, you're in Canada. There's also another girl, I forgot her name. We were talking in a breakout room before, but she's in Turkey. So there's a great diversity that you guys can, you know, utilize to branch out the Society of International Scholars company. So yeah, to close off the interview, do you have one tip about either like the LaunchX application process or, I think you mentioned a lot of it already, but anything else to say about SOIS?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna just talk a little bit on the LaunchX, because I think for students who are applying for 2023, one thing is that like don't really stress about it. I feel like when you kind of log in, there's like, you kind of look over, like, I think a lot of us related to this when we were looking over like the application videos of previous years, and we're
Oh,
like, oh my God, they're doing like so many things. Just like take inspiration, but remember that like for me, I firstly was like, oh, should I apply? Like there's so many highly advanced students, and like will I like, go through. One thing is just be yourself, like really, like I would say present the best self of you, but also just reflect on your unique qualities. One thing is that like for LaunchX is that they don't want you to be doing like 100,000 things. What they want is they want a person that has an entrepreneurial mindset. And this can even happen from like doing a simple club at your school, participating in a like charity, because entrepreneurship is, yes, it's a part of business, but it's also a style of life. If you can show LaunchX that your style of life, they really enjoy that. And I think like, yes, take inspiration from those application videos. And that's a great idea to start off with. I did that with a few videos, but just kind of reflect on your unique qualities and do your like very best. And you will find that when you get accepted and you kind of get into that LaunchX community, there are so many people who are just like you. And when you're applying, you might be thinking, oh, this skill, should I really like talk about it in my application? Like, wouldn't everyone know? You would be surprised. Like, we were like in just various classes, we learned that skills that we think are not really useful are so useful for so many different people. So really reflect on each unique like personality you have, and together it honestly shows your entrepreneurial like mindset. So definitely just go through the application and just really like kind of like show you. I wouldn't like, just don't be fake or anything, just show your true self. And I promise you'll literally, LaunchX will love that.
no, you do sound like a mentor yourself, Taha. Thank you so much for being on this talk show with us and talking about the Society of International Scholars. I hope super audience remember to follow the SOIS in the link down below in the description. And yeah, see you.
Bye.